Hello and welcome. Today it is my pleasure to introduce to the New England audience a very special guest, all the way from New Delhi, India. Ms. Anjana Gosain is the founder of Gosain Associates, which is a full-service law firm based in New Delhi. The firm's wide range of practice caters to a varied set of legal problems. It has vast years of experience in the fields of family and domestic disputes, real estate law, conciliation and dispute resolution, contract laws, commercial disputes, civil litigation, overseas disputes, and several other fields. For over 25 years, she has also worked with clients in Canada and India to help them sort out issues that might be related to property and other issues back home in India. Most importantly, she's a very special person to me. She happens to be my sister-in-law, and she has visited New England often to visit her son and her precious granddaughters who live here. Anjana ji, welcome to Lokwani. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Ranjani.
What a pleasure it is to have you here to demystify for us some of the property laws that are in India. So let me start right at the beginning. I know that in the United States, people have different kind of affiliations to India. You know, they might be United States citizens born in India. They might be on H-1B visas. Could you categorize for us or tell us what the courts think of us when they look at the different kinds of people in the United States?
Thanks, Ranjani, for bringing me over here and to talk to you and people in New England. The Indians, there are three categories. One is, of course, the non-resident Indian. That category is for the person who is out of the country for 180 days. And that's called non-resident Indian. The second is persons of Indian origin. And thirdly is overseas citizens of India living abroad. The category of overseas citizens of India has been recognized in the last few years by giving them special category and the cards.
Fantastic. And when it comes to property ownership, is there a difference from the Indian perspective on these different categories of people?
Certainly, Ranjani, because people who are under the, I'm taking the category 3, that is the overseas citizens of India, who are actually American citizens or Canadian citizens or any other citizen around the world, but they were born in India. So overseas citizens of India means they were born in India and they decided to move away from India to another country. But to facilitate for them to acquire property, inherit property, the Indian government decided to give them this special category of overseas citizens of India. So OCI is a very new concept which gives them the right to inherit the property in India.
And what happens to citizens like grandchildren who might be born in America, like your own wonderful grandchildren? Would they have rights to inherit property?
See, there are further two categories. For instance, if the grandparents were in India and they moved away, and their children were born in the US, so they become US citizens, but then the further generations. But if the grandparents had owned property in India, by any default, they have given a codicil in favor of their children and subsequently to them, then the right in the grandparents' property will not cease to exist.
I see.
Because it is the generation after generation whose inheritance rights under the Indian Succession Act cannot be taken away. So they will have the right.
They will have. That's fantastic to know that. Now, of course, the big question that all of us, people in the United States often struggle with is that what is the actual process if somebody, a parent or a grandparent, is, passes away? What is the process or what are the things that people should be made aware of to be able to inherit property?
See, it's a very difficult question to answer for the reason, but I'll give the most common situations. For instance, a person has moved away to India, okay, and he has become US citizen.
Yeah.
But his grandfather has left a sizable amount of property, and
Yeah.
he has two, three other brothers or sisters living in India. In that case, his right is very much there. And if the
So
grandfather has
I'm
to
going to
leave the
ask you a
property,
little slightly different. Actually, I'm not going to the rights really. I'm just asking you the process. Supposing,
process
there
I'm
is no,
coming to
yeah,
that, for
exactly.
acquiring that share,
Yeah.
the process would be depending on the person, whether that person has left a will or has passed away intestate. Will means that will be defining the share which the deceased has decided to part with. And as far as the intestate is concerned, that means the person has passed away without leaving a will. So then the process would be totally different.
I
I'll
see.
explain whenever you want to ask me on that.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go for that. Supposing there is a will, there is no contention, everything is, really smooth. What is the process? What is the nitty-gritty of doing things to acquire the property?
Well, it will happen to be, somebody has to be a really saint to get to know that though I'm living abroad, but I have been disinherited for some reason. Then he can sit quietly and give up his share by relinquishing his share in favor of the other people. But the question is, if he has been disinherited and he accepts it, then there is no dispute. But by any chance, if they don't want to fight, but if that property is to be disposed of by any chance, then in India, the buyer would definitely like to have a no objection. So in that process, the person who has been disinherited and there is no dispute, but for a proper transaction of sale, he would relinquish his share in favor of the other people in whose favor the will has been prepared. This is one aspect. And if there is by any chance a person also acquires inheritance by way of will, and the others deny him the right who are living in India, then he has to contest it by filing objections, contest the objections raised by the others who are living in India and have been disinherited. So for that, the legal process would be in India, and where probably the challenge would be made by the disgruntled party who has been deprived of his share in the will by filing a probate. Probate is the process in which the inheritors have the right and non-inheritors are the ones who have challenged the will.
So supposing person X has the rights, there is, maybe a sole, only child or something like that. There is no contention. So the parent passes away or something like that. So what is it that the first thing that they do when they go to India? What are the documents? What is the process that they would follow?
See, if the person comes to Delhi, in
Yeah.
Delhi, you don't require any probate.
Oh.
Then the process would be, there are 3 to 4 very important documents. One, in case the parents have passed away, and if there is a will giving him the right, there is no difficulty. By producing the will, first of all, he has to go to the Municipal Corporation of Delhi. I'm giving the instance in Delhi.
Yeah.
Then he would file an application annexing the will and giving the death certificate to the municipal commissioner, saying that this is the property which has been left in my name, and there are no other legal heirs for which, since he would be a citizen abroad, then he would not require a surviving certificate, because surviving certificate is only given to those citizens who are Indian citizens. So on the basis of the document of death certificate of the will, then the mutation only gives the right to pay the house tax, but it will become a record, revenue record of the corporation for the person. So the document would be mutation certificate, copy of the will, and there'll be no other requirement for selling the property. Then the buyer would only require these 2, 3 documents.
Fantastic.
But how the process has to take place of sale, That's another aspect.
That's another question. So now, supposing there is contention and all of this, I suspect, can people litigate staying from the United States? How would that process work?
That's a long drawn process which I have been looking at.
Huh?
In fact, the problem is that children who leave the country and they live there for a long time, normally the parents think that they are, that's my experience, thinking that look, that son of mine or daughter of mine are well to do. So normally the property is given in the name of the ones who look after them,
Mm,
who are a part of the family and who are in India.
right.
Now, in that process, basically, in case somebody decides to litigate from there, that first challenge is to fight to find the right attorney.
Yeah.
Secondly, how to contest it,
Yeah.
because Indian courts are famous for delays.
Yeah.
So, a property dispute, we generally jokingly tell our clients that A has started the process, the grandchild would maybe inherit it. So the person who has to basically litigate from US or abroad must look for settling the dispute.
Mm,
And
mm,
for that, we have a very good process in Delhi High Court, that is mediation and conciliation. So, in case you want to decide to mediate, then you have to apply to the mediation center in the High Court, where you can give your dispute and mediator is appointed. Then the other parties are called to negotiate and discuss the matter. In case that mediation fails, then you'll have to take proper legal course by filing a suit for partition, or if there is a will to object, that would be probate. Then through the attorney whom you can select, either through you can go through the list of lawyers, or normally I would suggest reference,
mhm.
because with reference you can at least trust. But who would litigate on your behalf? That's another issue. So then you'll have to take a power of attorney. For that, you would have to take that power of attorney in favor of a person who is a resident in India and in that particular city, closely known to you, because power of attorney can be misused as well.
Right.
So that power of attorney which you are going to send from US would have to be attested in the US, and it has to be then stamped in India. So that's one process for which the person would have to travel to India.
Yeah.
Secondly, for litigating, that part through power of attorney is the only option, because you can't keep coming to look into the details. Because I have some one or two cases where it's been going on for more than 20 years for default of not following it up.
Ah,
So you should make up your mind. Do you really want to litigate without understanding the pros and cons? So my answer would be, kindly mediate, try to compromise, take a little loss here and there, and settle the issue.
settle the issue.
Because litigating from abroad
Yeah.
is a long drawn process,
Process.
but if it is inevitable, it can be contested successfully, but do not ask me the years.
I understand that. I understand that. But when it comes to selection of an attorney, does it have to be an attorney from that state where your particular property is, or what other guidance would you give? Like, what kind of specialization should you look for in an attorney? Any special thoughts on that?
I would recommend a attorney who has been practicing on the original side
Ah,
and into property disputes and real estate. Because now in India, real estate has become, it's totally under the RERA. RERA means Real Estate Act, in which the builders have to register themselves. So it's become quite professional. If they have, say, a flat with a builder, which is in a regular colony, that's separate. In case it's a society in which you have a flat, then we have to see that then it becomes totally different, because these days registration of builders is necessary.
ah,
So it depends where the property is, but the jurisdiction would lie where the property is situated. And then it becomes the amount, the valuation of the property. If it is, say, beyond in Delhi, beyond 2 crores, then it has to go to then only it can go to High Court, will be beyond 10 crores. But if it is below that, then it will go to the trial court. So it
ah.
district court. So it all depends. But jurisdiction for litigation would be the city in which the property is situated.
But the lawyer also should be located in that city.
Definitely,
That okay, okay,
definitely.
definitely okay,
Closer and in the city.
in the city. That's your
And
recommendation.
you should try to find out about the experience, about the past, and because there are chances that persons may not be having requisite experience in the real estate, which is really important.
Important. So no, that's very interesting. And so actually, I think Anjana, you were so kind to say that maybe you will give your email address, and if our viewers want to contact you for some, advice or some clarification, I think you were open to that. Am I right about that?
Yes, I would be open to that to advise people so that
Yeah,
they should get the right direction
right direction.
to enjoy their rights which they are entitled to receive
Course.
legally.
That is really wonderful. Now, I have also heard about cases where there are wills, but the people in India have confiscated this and they don't share the wills. Is there a way then for people to actually, access the wills or do anything about it if the will has been hidden away or something like that?
See, mostly these days, at
Yeah.
least in the last 20, 25 years, or maybe more than that, there has been a trend of registered wills. In
Okay.
case a person gets to know about the registration of the will, then and he does not get to know anything, then in the revenue department, that means the office of sub registrar, they can apply and they can get the certified copy. But in case there is no such registration, then it has to be discrete inquiries or direct questioning from whom they have to find out. Because unless a document is registered, you cannot have any access to it.
Hmm.
And sometimes these wills only appear when the litigation starts. So
Hmm.
the fraud and fabricated wills do find their place in such litigations.
Interesting, interesting. Wow. That's a whole interesting set of things that is going on there. Now, for people where, there is no, like I said, it's a cordial relationship and all of that, still, I assume you would recommend that they get a attorney to help them process through inheriting the property. Any suggestions on that?
Yes, they must engage an attorney for several reasons.
Uh-huh.
It's not only for litigation,
Uh-huh.
it is for advice, then documentation, which is a lot in India. You have to, which is around the world, but for India, definitely. Because there are so many departments in which requirements can arise, and that can only be helped through a legal person.
Right.
So there are certain different stages for which they would constantly and regularly require an attorney to help them out.
Fantastic, fantastic. So now this has been really insightful, Anjana. And maybe moving forward in our next interview, we can come up with specific cases that maybe we
Yes,
can work through
yes,
so that our
exactly.
viewers can understand, specific situations. And
Living examples,
yeah,
examples,
yeah,
pending studies,
yeah,
and that can be a guiding force for them to know how difficult things had become because they had not taken care
yeah.
to avoid those situations. So we
That's
can
a
definitely, I'll be very happy to help them
sure.
in case there is such another occasion with you,
Yes.
which is always a pleasure, Ranjani.
Always, always, my dearest sister-in-law. We are quite a team, I think. And really, what I admire about you, Anjana, amongst many things, is the care and compassion that you show to all your clients, I know, and of course to the family. But I have seen you work with your clients, and you're really very thoughtful. And as you always say, you make them your family and make sure that they are really, really helped in the right way. So today you really opened my eyes to this idea of mediation, and I didn't know about that. So that's a very important point, and good to know that there is that option, which is very valuable for people who might be
And
going in
it's
that
very
direction.
helpful. It helpful, very helpful.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, in the next, we hope that there might be viewers who might send us questions as well. And in our next session, maybe we will look to working on specific cases, especially to understand what are the things that people should be doing ahead of time what kind of conversation should you have with your parents ahead of time, so that,
Correct.
most importantly, I think more than litigation or anything else, you would like your parents' will to be fulfilled, right? Whatever they want, how they want their property to be taken. And, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I know those can be difficult conversations. So maybe in our next session, let us work on seeing how we can make those conversations happen. What are the certificates? What are the process one should be aware of, so that, especially at a difficult time when a parent passes away, you are not struggling with other issues that are going around there. So, Anjana, thank you so much for your time today. And we look forward to our next section
Thank
on
you so much.
demystifying.
And I'd like to part with this conversation. Prevention is better than cure. So that should be the theme in the next talk. And as usual, very, very happy to be with you. And I hope I've been able to answer most of your questions.
Absolutely,
Thank
Anjana.
you
You have
so
been,
much.
you really enlightened us today. And as I said, you have demystified the Indian law for us a little bit. And we'll continue to do that on various topics, so that people can be benefited from that. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. I'm humbled. Thank
Namaste.
you. Namaskar.